Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here, and thank you so much for tuning in again today. This is a new episode number 373 of A Better Way with Kirsten podcast. If you are not familiar with my podcast, then this podcast is all about helping you to overcome your chronic anxiety and chronic sensations in the body. If you have been a listener already, you know this. But just to give you a very brief introduction, if you're new, on this podcast, we're talking about these chronic pains and sensations and anxiety that have been there maybe for a while for you. And no matter what you try, it's not helpful. You've been seeing several doctors and healthcare providers, and nobody is really able to help you. And the reason why they haven't been able to help you is that the solution isn't there. The solution isn't in anybody else's hands. It's actually in your nervous system. And when you learn to regulate your nervous system and create safety in it, you can actually overcome these chronic sensations. And obviously, it's always important that you do get checked out by a licensed healthcare professional to make sure that there's nothing that actually needs medical attention. So if you have already done that and you haven't gotten help, then this is your nervous system is probably the answer here, and this is what we had to work with. Now, these nervous system problems, when we look at it like really broadly, they're there because you are under a lot of stress, and the stress can of course come in many forms. A lot of things can cause stress. So what we're going to talk about today is some of the things that you do in your daily life. Are they causing you more stress, or they are helping you reduce stress? So in other words, I'm going to use the terms stress production and stress reduction, and I'm going to read you a list of 10 things that you might be doing every day or engaging in every day, and really asking you to take a second before you engage in these things to ask yourself, is this going to reduce my stress levels, or is this going to produce more stress in me? Because what we want to do in order to recover from these sensations and uncomfortable anxiety and all these body aches and pains is to reduce stress. But if we're not careful and we just keep piling it on and on and on, then it's going to be really difficult to recover. And of course, our nervous system is supposed to handle some stress. It's not that we have to eliminate stress from our lives completely, but it could be that you are just overloaded with stress, especially now during this time when we have so much technology and phones and computers and notifications and all that. I don't think that everybody's nervous system is quite ready for all that stimulation and load. So you may have to adjust some things here and really find ways to reduce your stress. But of course, it goes beyond phones and technology. There are many other things too that are causing us stress. And like I said, today I'm going to read you a list of things that you would want to check in with. Like, is this causing me a lot of stress, or is it actually making me feel better? And sometimes the answer is yes, this is definitely causing me more stress. This is a stress production activity and I should do less of it. And then other times it really depends on the situation. Sometimes this situation could be producing more stress, other times it could be reducing your stress. So some of these things are definitely dependent on a situation. Okay, so before I read you the list of the things that I have here, I also want you to think about one thing. So when you are thinking about, is this stress producing or stress reducing activity for me, think about long term. Don't think about in the moment, but a couple of hours later, or at the end of the day, or after 1 week, or something like that. Because, for example, checking your emails constantly can give you momentarily this feeling of like, yes, this reduced my stress because I saw that there's nothing that I have to get back to right now. I can breathe again, right? Because a lot of us have this anxiety in us, like I have to get back to all my emails right away. So you may be thinking, okay, when I check everything and answer everything right now, that's going to take off some stress from my plate. But at the end of the day, it actually can be increasing your stress because you are constantly checking, you're constantly mode switching. Let's say that you're working on something and then you get the urge to check your email. That's mode switching. This is stressful on your nervous system. And at the end of the day, maybe when you go to bed, when you think, what did I get done today? All you did was checking your notifications and emails, and you actually never got to the project that you were working on. So this is actually, at the end of the day, stress producing. And now your sleep might be off. You might feel just really scattered all over the place, anxious, because you didn't actually complete what you wanted to complete. So again, I want you to think about not just what's right now in front of me, like do I get like a quick dopamine release from checking my Instagram? Think about what is it like longer term. Okay, so let's get started with this list then. And the first thing is kind of what I've been hinting about already, grabbing the phone and then scrolling. And this can so easily happen when you get bored or when you get stuck with your work, or if you have an uncomfortable emotion, then it can feel like I'm going to grab my phone, and that can feel like stress reducing activity. For a moment, you may feel this way truly because you get a quick dopamine hit. Oh, let's see what's going on there. What did somebody post? What did they have say about this thing? So you may get like a little dopamine boost there. But at the end of the day, does it actually reduce your stress or does it produce your stress? And it is my experience that definitely being on the phone all day long and grabbing the phone when it's not necessary actually is a major stress producer. For me, it has been, and I know I'm not the only one here. And it can take a lot of discipline to start moving away from it and maybe set some limits with your phone use and get a little bit more disciplined. It can take a lot of effort, but it is worth it, in my opinion, because I definitely notice being a lot more calmer and more regulated when I don't do this all the time, when I'm not on my phone all the time. And you can think about it yourself too. How do you feel when you compare a day when you're on your phone all day long compared to a day when you are on your phone less? And if you're never on your phone less, if you're there all day, every day, then that's probably a problem here, especially if you have these signs and sensations of chronic nervous system dysregulation. Then being on your phone all the time absolutely contributes to it. And I can tell from my own personal experience too, when my back pain started, it was around that time that I had been on my phone a lot all the time because I was building my business. It was early in 2017, and by the end of the year, I actually started my online business 2016, but then my pain started in September 2017. So I had been very active and like super connected glued to my phone all the time and checking everything and just being so much on my computer all day, every day. And then it started to show and I started to get these aches and pains. And of course, it's not just that it was me being on my phone too much. That wasn't the only reason why I got years and years of back pain. It was a lot of other things too, suppressed emotions and never feeling enough and making myself work really hard, not kind of knowing where to stop. So it all contributed. But being on the phone a lot was absolutely one of the things. And another situation where you can think yourself, like, how does this apply to you? If you, let's say, you go on a vacation and maybe you use your phone a little bit less, how do you feel? You feel a lot better. Don't you feel this way? I know I felt this way, definitely myself. So it shows that being too much on technology will absolutely increase your stress in most cases. Of course, sometimes it also decreases it depending on what you are doing there, what kind of experience you get from, scrolling all the time. But I would say that in general, grabbing the phone mindlessly is a stress producing activity. The second one is the news, and you probably knew that this is coming. I don't love the news at all. I understand, like I said in my previous episode too, that some people say I have to stay in the loop, and I always say if something is very, very important, it will find its way. You will hear about it. You absolutely hear about it. Like today's age, every all the important information you will hear about it. Absolutely, 100% sure. But do you really need to watch everything all the time? Because isn't that a major stress producer for you? Or do you feel like after reading all these news and terrible things and watching all the awful videos, do you feel like you're less stressed? I highly doubt it. So if you have this habit of checking news constantly, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like, being aware. That's a different thing. But if you're checking everything constantly, ask yourself before you pick up your phone or before you open your computer or before you go to any of these places where you can see news, is this going to reduce my stress or produce more? And then make a choice. What are you going to do about it? Maybe you can put that phone away now and not go and read it. And maybe you go and read it another time or maybe tomorrow because you've already done it 5 times today. So does it really make sense to do it again? Because there's a really good chance that it is stress producing. And every time you read something that's scary, that's terrifying, which is how news are, they're designed this way, you guess what's happening in your body, right? You are flooded with these fearful negative emotions, fear, anxiety, panic. I don't even want to say these words because then I'm creating this here too, and I don't want this place to be here to create more fear and panic. The goal is exactly the opposite. But ask yourself, what is this causing in me? And like I said, make a decision. Do you have to check everything all the time, or can you take a break and check less often, or not at all? The next thing that I would like you to ask is about gossiping, criticizing, judging, and venting for long periods of time. Does it reduce your stress? Does it produce stress? So when you are criticizing somebody or when you're judging, or in the past, a previous episode, we talked about somebody cutting you off in traffic, when you're now venting about it on and on and on and on, does it produce stress or does it reduce it? You may feel like it reduces it, that kind of let a little bit of steam on. Okay, maybe for a minute or 2 or 5. But then after that, does it have the same effect of reducing pressure, reducing stress, or has it at this point become something that produces more of it? You're keeping yourself stuck in the same cycle of, negativity when you're criticizing, gossiping, judging, and venting. And this is stress production, clearly. The next thing is this. Ask yourself if this is going to reduce stress or produce stress when you're about to say yes to something, and also when you're about to say no to something. What would be a good example here? Let's say that somebody reaches out, a friend of yours, and asks, hey, we're going to meet up with a group of people today. Do you want to go out and have dinner with us? And now you can think, is it going to produce stress or is it going to reduce stress? And it could go either way. It really depends on the situation and people, what your day has been what your day has been like, what your week has been like, and so on. Maybe you have had a lot of people around you all the time already today and you're overstimulated and you just need some downtime by yourself. Well, then maybe going out might be stress producing. But on the other hand, if you feel like, yes, I've been kind of pretty isolated, I mean, just working by myself and staying home a lot, and I think it would be really good for me to go out with my friends, then it is going out with your friends will be stress reducing, right? It was going to be a good thing. And also, like, think how are you going to feel afterwards? Again, like I said before, because I can say that for me, when I think about, or should I go out or not, my first response is always no. I don't want to go. Almost always. Not 100% of the time, but many times it's no, because I feel like I have to go out, I have to do this, I have to socialize. It's still a little bit difficult for me. It's not super easy. It depends on a person, of course, too. But a lot of times it is difficult. It takes a little bit of effort. So at the same time, when I do go, I know it's always worth it. Like 9.5 times out of 10, I'm happy that I did go. And so that's another thing where you can think about it. Like, is it going to reduce or produce stress? Because it can easily reduce stress too. Like, if you have been craving social connection, is good for you, then go and feel better afterwards. Okay. The next thing is working out and exercise. Now, it might be surprising that I have it in this list, because you might be wondering, well, does working out ever produce stress? And I thought it's only stress reduction. And I'll say that, yes, in most cases, probably is stress reduction. right? When you are exercising, but there are times when it actually can produce more stress. When you are, let's say, overtrained, when you are sick, when you are pressuring yourself super hard, your body really isn't up for it, or you're injured or something, and you push yourself to do it anyway, to go and work out anyway, well, then we're talking about stress production again. And again, speaking from my personal experience, I've done a lot of overtraining in my life, a lot, way too much. And I know that there definitely are some times where I know that this was too much. I should not have done this. Maybe you've heard the saying that, oh, nobody has ever regretted a workout. I have regretted a workout because I've done it from a really depleted place, really exhausted, really tired. Not recently, but years ago, I did it. This was my go-to. This was my coping mechanism. I didn't know what else to do. And I gotta say, I still have that tendency. So, for example, when things get difficult, I don't want to face something, or I feel uncomfortable, I would like to just go and spend like hours at the gym. This is just a similar coping mechanism as it could be for somebody who gets really obsessed about like cleaning, or really obsessed about controlling their food, or really obsessed about just like being overly detailed when it's not necessary. So we all have this thing, and so for me, this is exercising. I could go and do it, but I have to kind of catch myself and know that this is an old coping mechanism, and it can sometimes produce more stress if I'm not careful with it. So that's why it is in this list. Sometimes stress, exercising, working out can also produce stress, but I will say most of the time it actually does reduce. And I've had several clients over the years. I've been doing strength training coaching for many, many years now. I have several clients who have told me that I really didn't want to do the workout. I really did not want to do it. But then I got myself, I put my workout clothes on and I told myself I'm going to do just like 10 minutes. This is my recommendation. When people say, I don't know if I should or should not do it, I say, go ahead and do it for 10 minutes and see how you feel. If you feel awesome, keep going. And a lot of times people feel like, yeah, I feel really great. It actually reduced my stress. So I went ahead and did the whole workout. So again, this is another one of these cases where it could go either way, and you will have to be the judge here. You know what's best for you. The next thing that I have in my list here is committing to something or taking on new responsibilities. You can ask yourself, is this going to produce more stress, or is this going to reduce my stress? For example, it's something at your child's school or some kind of volunteering event, whatever it is, and you're thinking, should I do it? Should I not? Well, then ask yourself, is this going to produce more stress? Do I already have a ton to do? Do I need another thing on my plate? Maybe in this case, this is producing stress. Maybe you feel like pressured. Maybe you want to be, liked by everybody. That's why you take it on. But this is not a good reason if it actually produces your stress. But on the other hand, maybe it reduces your stress. Maybe this is something that you're really passionate about and you're happy that you can contribute. So it could be something like that too. And then it becomes a stress reducing activity. Maybe you connect with like-minded people, you build some nice community, whatever it is. It can really be a very good experience too. So again, really depends on the situation. The next thing, is it producing or reducing your stress, is procrastinating. Okay, so this is something that when it happens a lot, you notice it a lot, like every day you're procrastinating for hours and hours and hours, definitely also tells you that your nervous system is not in an optimal state. You feel like stuck. You kind of feel like you should get going and you can't at the same time. It's like you're stuck and you need to move. It's this place where you're not regulated, you're not in an optimal place. So you always find things to do instead of the thing that you actually have to get done. So you procrastinate. And when you do it, it can, again, in the moment feel good. Oh, it reduces my stress to procrastinate and do something else instead of the thing that I actually have to do. But what is the long-term effect of it? So how do you go to bed that evening? You go to bed thinking, oh, I procrastinated all day. You feel unhappy with yourself. You didn't get things done and you feel bad. So in this case, it's probably procrastinating probably is stress producing. Actually, at the end of the day, when you think about it, even though in the moment it feels like a good idea to procrastinate, to do something else. And I really like this idea of like thinking, how do I want to go to bed tonight? What do I want to feel? And that helps me when I'm procrastinating. The next thing on this list is texting with a lot of people. And so many people have many different apps. Like you have the regular phone messages, but then you also have WhatsApp, and then you have Instagram messages and Facebook messages and chats, and then very different groups and so on and so forth. And it's, of course, it's nice to stay connected with people, but it can get very overwhelming. And I think a big thing here is that it, again, comes back to being on your phone a lot, being on your computer a lot, just being on your technology a lot. But also, if you have like a lot of people that you're texting with, again, it's constant mode switching, it's constant talking, it's constant like staring at the screen. I personally find it very draining to text with lots of people. And maybe here, what you could do is like set aside like a little bit of time where you respond to people. But if you have it like going on like all day long, you're texting, and then you do a little bit of work, and then you go on a walk and you're texting, it's just really exhausting for the nervous system. Very, very tiring. So I think, in my opinion, texting with tons of people is stress producing most of the time. The next thing is listening to music or podcasts all the time. Is this stress producing? Is this stress reducing? And of course, here too, this could go both ways. For example, if you feel like a little bit down and sluggish, then you put on some good music and do some couple of dance moves. It can be very much stress reducing. A lot, very much, right? It can be really amazing. If you want to learn something, you're interested, you're excited about a topic, and then you listen to a podcast, yes, it can reduce your stress. It can feel really good. On the other hand, if you're already overstimulated, if you are already having music in your ears all the time, if you're listening to something all the time, if you're watching on YouTube all the time, then it becomes stress producing. And again, for me, it did. About maybe 1.5 years ago, I totally started noticing it. I did something all the time. I listened to something all the time, whether it was a podcast that I listened to at the gym, or it was music, or in the evening I would like study something. Then I took on Spanish. I wanted to learn Spanish on my own. So on my walks, I would listen to Spanish, and it just became a lot. I realized that, yes, I am interested in all this stuff. This is amazing. And I just want to like learn all the things that I can because it's fun. But at the same time, I noticed that my nervous system just can't handle so much. It becomes so much stress, so much noise, so much stimulation that I just had to let some things go. And I did. And now I'm definitely having more quiet breaks. I do during the day, instead of like having something on all the time. I have silent breaks on my walks. I don't always bring my phone. I would say maybe 50-50, but a lot of the walks are also in silence. So for me, it's been helpful to reduce that noise. Reducing that noise has been stress reducing. But like I said, sometimes you want to have good upbeat music, and that will reduce your stress. So again, depends on the situation. And then last thing is staying in negative emotion for too long. Is this stress reducing or producing? You know the answer, obviously, right? It does produce a lot of stress. If you stay angry, if you stay very in this like shameful place where you're telling yourself horrible things, how you're not good enough, and you're not good at anything. You're just telling yourself these negative stories, which then create all these negative emotions about yourself, negative beliefs. This obviously causes a lot of stress. And this is that type of stress that really is very important to understand. Sometimes people don't think that emotions can cause you physical stress, but they can. I have a whole course about it. It's called Emotionally Fit, and you can find it in the show notes too, in the YouTube description. And in this course, I talk about how negative emotions, when you don't do anything about them, when you just let them stay there and you don't express them, how they can cause your physical sensations and problems that really become chronic. So it's really worth it to understand how to express your feelings, emotions, and then get out of them because you can't stay stuck in anger or like frustration for too long without it starting to feel in your body. So I really recommend that you feel your emotion. Again, go back to the previous episode, feel your emotion and work through that, so that yes, you're gonna let it be there for a little bit, and then you do a little bit of somatic work, which is so helpful and so useful. And that's why I'm doing the workshop that you heard about at the beginning of this episode. and then maybe write about your anger or let it out in some way, and then switch to a different state. Switch to something better, switch to gratitude or joy or connection or something that makes you feel better, because getting stuck and staying stuck will definitely 100% produce more stress in you. So this was the list. I'm going to read it to you one more time, where before engaging in this thing, take a second to ask yourself, is this going to produce stress or reduce stress? The first one was grabbing the phone and scrolling. Second, watching the news. Third, gossiping, criticizing, judging, and venting for too long. Fourth, saying yes or saying no. Fifth, working out and exercising. Sixth, committing to something or taking on new responsibilities. Seventh, procrastinating. Eighth, texting with people back and forth, multiple people, multiple apps. Ninth, listening to music and podcasts. And then 10th was staying stuck in negative emotions for long periods of time. All right. Thank you so much for being here today, and talk to you again very soon. Take care.